Hello, and welcome to the first hashtag StoryFirst podcast, a weekly show where we talk about Web3 NFT projects that are focused on storytelling. We represent an organization called StoryPrima DAO, and we believe lore-heavy, story-focused NFT projects are built to last and will form the foundation of a new breed of hugely influential properties in gaming, entertainment, art, and beyond. The hashtag StoryFirst podcast highlights the mavericks who are leveraging the power of NFTs to tell the blockbuster stories of tomorrow. My name is Devin Sawyer, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, co-hosts, and co-founders, James Devin and Barry Donaldson. Together, we make up 3/4 of the origin team for Legends of Cypher and StoryPrima DAO, which are the two topics we'll be discussing today. But before we jump into those topics, let's start with some introductions. Barry, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello. My name is Barry. I currently live up in Alaska. I'm a writer. It's primarily what I do with these two projects, focus on fiction, education and fiction and philosophy. I love to get outside. I love to travel. I love to live in other countries, experience new things, try to change my perspective and just see the world a bit differently. So, yep.
Awesome. James, in the beautifully lit room.
Hey guys, my name is James Devin. If you can't tell from my accent, I live in Scotland. I have been an artist. I've been a trader. In my spare time, I like to read, like to learn, and I like to get out in the mountains of this beautiful country and take my dogs. And that's about me.
Awesome.
Well, you,
thanks,
Devin.
guys. Yeah, me. I'm. My name is Devin. I live in Canada, just outside Toronto. I'm an ex-finance executive, traditional finance, as we say in Web3. My areas of expertise were marketing, branding, and e-commerce. Did that for 2 decades. About 2 years ago, I fell down the rabbit hole working in Web3, and I've been full-time in the space since last summer. And like my esteemed colleagues here, I'm a co-founder and a contributor to both the StoryPrima DAO and Legends of Cypher, 2 topics for today. So we're going to start with introducing our audience to the StoryPrima DAO. What is it? It's a decentralized autonomous organization with the mission to accelerate growth and success of story-focused NFT projects through media, research, education, and project incubation. The origin of StoryPrima DAO actually came from our own efforts to launch our own NFT project, Legends of Cypher, where we found it difficult to create awareness in the community and the market, where the market is really largely based on beautiful artwork, but mostly visual-based NFT projects that are largely designed around tokenomics, and they typically sell out quick and provide a great return. These projects are not without community, but we find that the storytelling is a second thought to the art and the return on the projects and the project's investments, which are not bad things. It's just not what we need to promote projects like Legends of Cypher that are heavy in story, heavy in lore, deep universe building, requires more attention, more time, and more energy from our audience than your typical NFT project. So we've launched StoryPrima as a way to create a market and create a space for those projects to flourish and create a media arm through distribution channels such as this podcast. So that's my spiel on StoryPrima. But Crayons, in your words, tell us your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, so the idea of StoryFirst is, to me, so as a writer, StoryFirst is easy to talk about because you literally write stories. It exists, I think, in all art forms, whether it's any sort of visual arts or music, or anything you can come up with. But it's the idea that you give the story, the art, whatever it needs to fulfill the vision or to make it its best self. It's kind of like the art exists in and of itself, and to create it needs all the right food and the right sources and just no compromises, basically. So that's StoryFirst to me. And then if you extrapolate that out into StoryPrima DAO, it's the idea that you can find projects that are story focused as opposed to profit focused. It's not that profits are bad, but to me, story is more important. Like, obviously I would like to make money and make a living and whatnot, but creating the art is the most important thing. So we look for projects that have that same goal in mind and try to help them in whatever way they might need it, whether it's technical expertise, marketing, maybe they're just looking for fans. So that is, I hope, what StoryPrima DAO can do. Find little projects or big projects, whatever, any project that is story focused and help them grow. So,
yeah, great insight. James, what would be some thoughts from you on StoryPrima? What is it, and why do you think it's important?
Yeah, I think firstly, it's a meeting place for people who believe that story is important, right? It's always been important to human beings for millennia. All of our information comes through story and its symbols. So for those who seek a rich NFT experience, this is where you ought to be. It's also a vehicle for change, I suppose. The way that artistic types, creators, writers, make their living is largely through centralized systems. Okay, publishers and galleries and even streaming websites, and they don't get the sort of support that they need really directly from the community. Okay, so if we have a large community and we can bootstrap these projects, and then the community get the return instead of the centralized system, then that's win-win for the artist and the fans. Okay, so and I think that's fair. And then lastly, in this NFT market, in this Web3 ecosystem, it's a new idea, because, like you guys were saying, NFT projects just now, even if they are beautiful in artwork, they're mostly focused on either utility or maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Rarity. And there's few that are focused specifically on story. There's few that have the patience to watch story play out over a long period of time. Some do. And I'm a member of those communities. But we would like to try to bring all of these communities that are focused on story into one place where they can discuss and look for other opportunities. So then we can bring more artists in and we can grow and grow as a community. That's what it is to me.
Love it.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that. I think the change is a big one. A lot of what Web3 is bringing is disruption, and I don't want to say that we're here to disrupt. That's not the goal or objective. But certainly when I think about the way stories are created, to your point, James, in a centralized fashion, I think of a Marvel studio, and I imagine, what if Marvel studio was run by the fans and the artists working together to create what it is they want to see, what stories they want to tell, how do they want to tell them, what sort of art and music do they want to see come together. I think that the creative storytelling in a decentralized fashion by the community, for the community, will bring about the greatest stories ever told. They'll be less manufactured and more grown organically through directly by the individuals who have the ideas. So love what you guys are saying there, and yeah, I think StoryPrima, that mission is really to bring those stories to light for the world. So awesome.
Part of what it does is it being NFT, blockchain, Web3 technology, all that stuff. Part of what it does is in almost bypassing those centralized, like the the big movie studios, production studios, the big music labels. Those are almost gatekeepers. Not almost, those are gatekeepers. And so that technology, the internet in general, and then the new stuff as well, allows us to bypass those gatekeepers. It allows artists to find their fans without, kind of almost in spite of those groups. Like, I'm not saying they don't have, those labels are important. They do amazing things, like the marketing, if nothing else. But it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. People trying to kind of end around the giants.
Yeah, these giants, they gatekeep the archetypal stories of our history, right? And they tell them again and again in different ways, and they put slants on them. And it's not manipulative; it's creative. But what it does is it conditions us into ways of thinking, right? So everyone knows what a Hollywood romance is, and lots of people expect this in their life. And that in turn has an effect on whether we feel satisfied or not. So a decentralized storytelling platform would be truer to what people are really feeling, and it would let the new stories come out. It would be a way of guiding our own minds and guiding our own futures.
Wow, I love that. I want to close the conversation on StoryPrima right there, because I think that is the highest level mission for us. Something we should probably write a blog about or have a piece about, because I think it's an important, probably the most important part of what we're doing, James. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And what a great segue to talk about Legends of Cypher, which is our own story and the first project that we're incubating through the StoryPrima DAO. So I'll start with a quick intro to Legends of Cypher. I'm just going to read it right from the website, and then I'll pass it over to my colleagues here. So Legends of Cypher is a multimedia project, tells a story of a future human civilization fighting for individual freedom. On one side, you have Hash and his gift to technology that can free humanity from the bondage of an organization, an empire known as Centopoly, which is a central corporatocracy that essentially runs commerce through technology and a power called the metric, which everyone in the Centopoly aligns to. And the main character on that side is Malarian, who is a high-ranking agent of this interplanetary empire, Centopoly, who will stop at nothing to prevent Hash and his allies from giving humanity its freedom. So there's much more to be said about Legends of Cypher. What it is a story. So let's talk about it, guys. Barry, our writer in residence for Legends of Cypher. What is Legends of Cypher, and why is it the coolest story on the planet?
So Legends of Cypher is a science fiction universe that's trying to highlight or illustrate or bring to light some truths about the world we currently live in. In my opinion, any good story draws parallels between like the real modern day world, or it could be later day worlds as well. It could be universal truths as well, right? Things like Mark Twain is still applicable 150 years later. So is Homer, like thousands of years later. Anyway, so our story is highlighting through these characters, Malarian and Hash, you mentioned, highlighting some of what's wrong and right with the world we live in. So our characters are fighting for individual freedoms, to kind of throw off the yoke of centralized power. So people making decisions for you that maybe you don't like those decisions, but you don't have much power to fight them. So in creating these characters in this universe, trying to bring that to light. And that to me is, that is the Legends of Cypher. That is the mission of the story. So to bring that to life.
Yeah. James, you want to build on that?
Yeah. To me, it's and I didn't even realize this until we started getting into it. To me, it's a thought experiment.
Totally.
Okay. Because I don't know from one day to the next what side I choose. Right?
Yeah,
that's a good story.
They both have their downsides, and they both have some strong upsides. And you're right, Barry. That is what makes a good story.
Oh, for sure.
And when we add the archetypal personalities to it, and we add the eons old conflicts, then it makes it even better, and it's so much fun to write. But from an artistic point of view, we all do, we get to think about what's it going to be like 11,000 years in the future. What are the technologies going to be like? How are people going to be flawed? How is everything going to work? So we have to take, incremental steps from now through to then and extrapolate these flaws outward. And it's just so much fun to try and think of what things will be like then. It's such a creative process, and you can go wrong a thousand different ways, or maybe you can't go wrong, right? I just until it's done, I suppose I won't know what it is.
Yeah,
but we'll let our readers be the judge of what it really is.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of what we've set out to do, in the kind of Web3 NFT decentralized context. We do hope to have engagement from our fans in this storytelling process. We've got a pretty good idea about the infrastructure of the universe, and the foundation is set. We've spent 9 months on that, and many, many, many hours in discussions and debates, and writing historical documents, and all the art that we've created to shape the universe, which has all inspired us to further it. Having the fans help us evolve the end of the story is going to be very important. But I think you made a great point, James, in that it's a bit of a thought experiment. You both made the point, and it's a philosophical discussion. I like to think of the context of, to your point, James, about which side should I be on. I think of the centopoly as, imagine the empire wasn't evil. Imagine the empire, there was a massive return on investment for everyone involved, that they created this metric that allowed everyone to understand where and how they fit into the empire and how to prosper in the empire, and that they made it really easy to prosper. And that's what the centopoly does with the metric. It makes it very easy for individuals to participate in the prosperous nature of the centopoly. The centopoly is dedicated to human progress. So it's really hard to fight. But what, the tension we're setting up is that at what point in time does humanity's attention to a central authority, albeit as good as it may be, start to erode our freedom and our real freedom of choice? And so Hash and the Cypherians are bringing that element in the story to say, well, there is a different way. It doesn't have to be the way of the centopoly. Please consider a different way. And to your point, James, it comes with its own downsides, right? I think it was Crayons who coined the phrase, the centopoly dulls the edges of life as much as it creates prosperity in doing so. It's not truly living. And to choose Hash and the Cypherians is choosing a harder way of life. It'll be a struggle, but you're not focused on that one central thing. So yeah, I think we do a good job of maintaining that line between the two choices, so that our audience can hopefully rides across the middle with us and understands and participates in the discussion about the good and the bad on both sides. But ultimately, it's a heck of a lot of fun to create a science fiction story of the future. And I love that as a team, we really challenge ourselves. not to fall into science fiction norms, to not only challenge what we believe, where we believe the world's going, but also the way science fiction is told as a narrative. We're challenging those narratives and everything from the words, the characters, and the artwork, while also really respecting great storytelling from history. You'll see lots of elements of other stories and narratives show up in ours that are fun to bring to life in a different way. So, yeah, and I love collaborating with you guys on it, and I can't wait till the community gets more involved in understanding it the way we do, because I think it'll really scale the fun.
I agree with you. Once people start to consume it, it kind of gets your hooks in you a little more. Like anybody that's read Maru, like the short story, like everybody's liked it so far. Like, oh, that's interesting. What is there more? Yeah. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a good point. And to put a finer point on that, because Maru 36 is like kind of the origin. It's a moment in our history that creates the space for the centopoly to emerge. And Maru 36 is a story of a 9-year battle.
90
decades.
The synthetic war.
The synthetic war is a 9-decade war where humanity has decided it's a civil war amongst humanity because humanity decided we became too dependent on artificial intelligence. So, we've got one narrative, which is central authority, central control, freedom in a decentralized context, and this whole notion of what is an inevitable reliance on artificial intelligence for the progress of humankind. So, we really tackle those topics head on. And Maru 36 is a critical point in the history of our universe, which is why we chose it as the first NFT for sale. So shameless plug right there.
Also
Maru 36, free to read, Maru 36. So you can really check out the story and buy the NFT, which, as you will learn more about, is a way to get into the Story DAO, StoryPrima DAO tokenomics. More to come on that, but I did want to make that plug. So again, legendsofcypher.io. You can check that out. Well, guys, I think that wraps the first episode of #StoryFirst. We talked about StoryPrima, did a good introduction there. Website for audiences, StoryPrima.io. We made a good introduction for Legends of Cypher, which is the first project to be incubated by the StoryPrima. But I'll wrap there. But any closing thoughts from you gentlemen before I?
I'd just like to welcome anyone in who is interested in this kind of thing, who wants to be more involved in storytelling, wants to have a richer NFT experience. Just come on in and check out the websites that Devin mentioned. Come and hang out with us in Discord. You can come join our Discord group, and we hang out there and we chat. And just look forward to this sort of thing is gonna really take off in the near future. I'm certain of it.
I'm certain as well. Barry.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, I don't think we touched on it. That the idea of StoryPrima is to help artists, but while they receive help, whether it's funding or technological or whatever else it might be, they retain control and ownership of their projects. It's not like we're buying a piece and then we tell people what to do. It's, hey, here's basically no strings attached help in whatever form it takes. And I think that's a pretty important distinction. And as an artist, that's very important to me. If somebody offered me a lot of money, it's like, but we're going to tell you what to do, I'd be like, no thanks. So I just wanted to make that point.
I think it's important for our
future audience.
100%. I made the reference to Marvel Studios in contrast to that. We're not looking to influence the story or the intellectual property. We're looking to empower the individual who has the idea and the inspiration to see it through and run it. We just want to help bring it to life and provide a media platform to create awareness and fans. So, we can all get together and help each other progress our projects, and using StoryPrima as a vehicle and a vessel to do that. So I'm glad you made that point. So with that, I'm going to close our first #StoryFirst episode. It will not be our last. You'll be able to check out the website, StoryPrima.io, for upcoming episodes. We are working on the schedule, and we're lining up some great guests as we speak. And as I said, check out legendsofcypher.io, where you can deepen your knowledge of the universe we've created there, and buy some NFT if you'd like to get involved. So with that, I'll say thank you. Have a great day or great evening, as it may be. Good morning to you all.